I think it's time that we have the debate. Bright Slap or Suete Slap? Which one is better? I did get a huge kick out of all the memes that were coming out of the Suete Slap, and it kind of reminded me back the days of the Bright Slap aspect. And I have to admit, yes, the Bright Slap did correct a few people back in the day, but the the absolute change that Gwen had based on her slapping him and slapping him in the Gundam, both those aspects completely shifted his tune quite a bit. I mean, him sending them to clean up the mess and everything after his failure, but yeah. Episode 2 was pretty solid. I have to say, it was less fun chemistry and more political building, but I think this stuff was definitely necessary. I think a lot of the questions I had at the end of the first episode had me wondering, like, how is this politically structured? I mean, everything's decided by duels. It seems like this academy is almost absolute to the world outside of it, which doesn't really make much sense, but I think what episode 2 kind of instilled upon me is the aspect that, yes, this is kind of like a Western setup where you have, yes, the political powers, but there's a lot of influence from the colleges and stuff themselves, the universities that influence a lot of things. And yes, a lot of testing and advancements and stuff technically come from a lot of universities that do a lot of research and experiments in order to advance certain things. Now, this isn't true for all colleges and universities, but it is a thing. And yes, of course, this university being a part of the Bennett group, it makes sense even more so. But now, opening up the episode, of course, everybody is questioning this Gundam. They quickly notice that this is the Gundam technology. It's obviously got to be a Gundam, and yes, they're already connecting it to possibly being this ghost of the Ox Earth group. So the front management company comes swooping in and quickly arrests Sueta and take her Gundam away and start interrogating her. And it's interesting because the Bennett group's already kind of acknowledging the idea that, yeah, if this is a Gundam, then why is she alive? Like, this goes in hand in hand. It's kind of like that whole rewriting history thing where when this was established, when this front was established, everybody believed that this technology was deadly. And thus you have one here and yet it's not causing this problem. It's almost as if we're kind of looping back to the original situation. This technology, it was beneficial, but it was deadly. And at the same time, they were looking for a way of resolving the issue. And so it's almost like we're getting a second chance here for the Vanitas Institute to sort of make what they wanted to make Dr. Cardo's dreams come true. And again, that was a big, huge question mark I had from the first episode that, like, how are we going to advance from here? They know this is a Gundam, and how exactly are you going to be able to somehow write into the situation that Sueta will continue with this Gundam? And I think they're kind of doing it pretty decently well right now, despite the fact that they are pretty much saying they want to get rid of Sueta, send her back to Mercury, destroy this Gundam, absolute orders given. They're still sneaking in some way of pulling it back in, which we'll get more into later. It seems as if Mother wasn't completely dumb. I mean, I can make an argument that she's sending Sueta to this university, which is exactly the enemy of them, the people that completely wiped them off the map. She's sending her daughter with this thing that literally says, I am a big beacon, come get me. But it seems as if the mother was working behind the scenes. She does have some sort of plan in place, and that is to register this Gundam as a part of the Shinsei development company that is a part of Mercury. Not only that, but yes, they could probably pull the carpet out from underneath me, but I'm pretty sure this Prospera is her mother. She's got the gun to arms. She's got the mask on to cover up her face. Yes, she has long brown hair, but I mean, how difficult it is to dye your hair. But she's now the president of the Shinsei company, and she comes in immediately to see Vim Jepturk. And she says something to the effect that, you know, I'm not here to ask you for a favor. You probably should be asking me for a favor, which will come into play later. Before this big meeting, we get to find out that they pretty much voided the duel. But it seems like the students in the actual school itself are kind of a little upset. Obviously, you have Ghoul here that's been pretty much the holder for a long time. He's the best dueler. And finally, somebody came in and shook things up. Everybody was very impressed by what Sueta did. But yes, she's also getting the attention of a lot of the heads of the school itself, including this Ellen Ceres guy, who eventually goes and meets Sueta in her cell. It was kind of a cute scene because Sueta, obviously going from being a country bumpkin out in Mercury, now in the school, she's in a place where she's very unfamiliar, she's very uneasy around other people, and then suddenly this whole thing happens and now she's in a prison cell. So she's very upset, she's very isolated in there, she's calling for her mother. And yes, this Ellen guy that seems to have some sort of interest in Sueta, they had a joke about the fact, I think it was Shadiq was joking about the fact that he might like her. He's like, no, I can't allow myself to love anybody. I'm like, there you go. There's our other love interest. Ellen will be the third wheel. Just watch. If you claim this early that you're not going to fall in love with Sueta, you're going to fall in love with Sueta. Additionally, during this episode, we get a lot of insight into the the odds that we have between the Spatians and the Earthians. It seems Nika is one of these Earthians. She gets kind of reprimanded for giving her tablet out to Suetta. When she tries to inquire what happened, she's basically told, well, you're an Earthian, just focus on your studies. Additionally, when she's in the lunchroom and she's with Choo-Choo and somebody else, I forget what his name is, they're talking about the Shinsei Corporation and how it's like one of the the lowest sales company out there, but it sort of gives a hint that based on whatever the company's sales figures are and you get kind of brought in by that company, it kind of puts you in a hierarchy system. And so yes, Suetta being referenced by this company that's like one of the lowest of lows doesn't give her much power. But additionally, in this scene, you have, yes, Spatians come up and, oh, that's our table. And so they immediately have to get up and leave. So the Earthian persecution stuff, I'm assuming, will continue on in this series. Probably going to be a central focus that's behind the scenes throughout everything. The last bit of stuff that we have is around Myorin. Yes, like I said before, at some point, all of Guel's thugs come by and offer to fix everything because he lost, and it seems like he's kind of changed his heart a little bit. But they also kind of joke about the fact that Suetta is pretty much going to get kicked out. But not only that, but her father has given her guards a message to give to her, which was that she's going to be unenrolled and that he's already found somebody to marry her, which this completely sets her off. It does seem like whoever was going to smuggle her, the reason why she was out in space in the first episode, came by again and offered once again to bring her to Earth, which she seems like she's going to go through with, but in the end, she ends up going to this big meeting that they are having to decide what happens to the Shinsei company, the Gundam, and Suetta. Which, yes, that's when we get Prospera showing up and trying to essentially talk them into allowing this Gundam to exist. Now, of course, she's not calling it a Gundam. She's claiming that it's just a machine. And this machine, yes, does have some sort of same effects as the gun format, but they're not really necessarily seeing any sort of data storms, so that thus means that it's not using that gun format. And yes, this ties into, once again, with the original story of the development of Ariel. This is a mobile suit that was trying to do something different than the gun format to get rid of all those side effects. And so it's going to obviously have a lot of technologies that they're not going to understand. They're going to assume that it is a gun arm. They're going to assume that it's using the gun format, but it's not. Well, it could still, but maybe just in a different way. We might still have that moment where Suetta becomes like infused with all the gun layers and starts getting all, messed up and possibly almost dying. But it was interesting because Prospera's perspective is that, look, this is a new technology that we're developing on Mercury. She basically uses the aspect that she's almost lost her arm and everything as to, some sort of harsh environment to Mercury. So this is a new technology they're developing as a drone to help them mine and stuff. And so she's kind of seeking them to overlook this because it's a technology they need to use. Which, yes, Delling is like, not having it. We're getting rid of it. It's a Gundam. I don't care. Like, in the end, he is king, as Marin puts it later on. But yes, as everything's kind of falling apart, it does seem like at some point Vim is trying to speak up, probably accordance to what Prospera told him before the meeting. But yes, Myorin comes in. Myorin comes to save her waifu. Myorin comes to save Suetta, comes marching in there. I don't know how she's able to enter the building, but I guess they don't lock the doors for these meetings. But she comes in and starts yelling at her father in the middle of this big O meeting. Says that he's a jerk. He keeps making all these decisions for her. But not only that, but that she, at this point, proposes a fix to the situation. She will duel Delling. She will duel her father. And based on that duel, it'll make the decision whether you let her do what she wants to do, leave Suetta alone, or we'll do whatever you say. Which Vim, at that point, speaks up. This is a good idea. Yes, let's do this. There's a lot of technology in this thing that we could possibly use. Let's see what it can do so that we can get some data from it. It seems as if the Bennett company itself is losing a lot of sales. They're losing their stronghold. So if they can get some sort of technology from this mobile suit, from this machine, from this Gundam, that they're not saying is Gundam, it can probably benefit them. So that's kind of where they're leaving it at. It seems as if Suetta, at least, is probably going to man this machine, fight against Delling. It gave us a brief cliff after the actual cast that there's this crazy machine that's flying around and it does this cool spin wheel thing to take out two suits that are just sitting there waiting to die. So I got a kick out of that. It was like, boom, 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 goes up next to them, and they just kind of sit there and wait for themselves to get sliced up. It's like, okay, at least try to move. But like I said earlier, this is kind of a cool way for them to sort of slip in a reason why they would even allow Suetta to stay there. And that's mainly the idea that they do see this Gundam or this machine as a Gundam. They obviously see similar technology here, but they can't really say it's the same thing. Similar to what Prospera is saying, you're not seeing this information, you're not seeing the data storms. Like, well, a lack of evidence doesn't necessarily change our mind. They see it this way. They see it as the ghost of the Ox Earth. They see it as a Gundam, and they want to get rid of it. But at the same time, they're sort of trying to rope it back into the situation, saying, well, there's possibly a technology here that we can utilize. If we can get this, which I think is a cool route for Prospera to take with Vim. You know, you can get this technology. Prospera's even offering it up. Yes, whatever you find, we'll provide all the data. That's great. Again, technically they're part of the Bennett group. So they can utilize that and offer what data they have to improve the company. And again, like I said, I don't know if they're going to go this route, but it is kind of interesting in the idea that Dr. Cardo's original thought was to have this technology brought into the system because she believes in the gun format. So whatever new technology they produced with Ariel, this is an easy way to slip it into the system because that's what Cardo wanted. But we'll have to see. It could just be a fake out and not want to give them any of the data, or give them fake data or something to allow Ariel to continue to stay in the school, but at the same time not give up whatever information they have for this system. Cool episode though, a lot of world building. I hope that they kind of keep this pacing up because it seems like, you know, Prelude, a lot of information. Episode 1 was a lot of fun. Episode 2, a lot of information. I hope they keep kind of going back and forth to give us those breathers, because I do love all this information. I love the world building, and I love the politics within it. That's what I've always loved about Gundam. I love the politics in Gundam, but at the same time, similar to the Iron-Blooded Orphans, I like that balance of the two of them. Still having a lot of fun with the characters, but at the same time, having that story put in there as well. Anyways, that's my impressions on episode 2. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody that considers, and y'all take care.